guys think that the missionary position came from? Why is it called that? For exactly the reasons that you mentioned. When they first encountered our people, they were like, "Oh my God, they're having sex on all fours. Oh my God, they're having sex like this. They're doing that. Stop doing that. That's don't do that. You're enjoying that too much. Do it like this."
And that's another thing. If you read Mikhail Foucault, he doesn't talk about this, but Mikhail Foucault's The History of Sexuality, where he talks about how the French understood sexual intercourse to be this psychological act that where power relations were being worked out between the two parties, between them. It's a bunch of bullshit. For African people, it was like, bitch, I'm trying to get my dick in some pussy, and it is what it is. We're gonna reproduce, and it's a spiritual act, yes. It's a romantic act, yes. But we have to make sure as an African people that we can continue our bloodlines on. And being that European anthropologists were so passionate about promoting their agenda, that the things that our ancestors did were sociologically abnormal and spiritually deviant, they completely missed the reality that sex and spirituality and African spirituality are one and the same, which is why you can see people embracing the energy of Oshun in a whole...
So excited to embrace it because it gives them permission to be sensual, sexual, flirty.
Right. And it's a reintroduction into the ways in which your ancestors practiced or displayed their sexuality, and you now have the opportunity to do that through invoking or evoking the energy of Oshun, for example. So I wanted to then talk to you about, do you know about any magic or rituals that can be performed to increase people's fertility?
Absolutely.
Have you ever seen them performed?
I have. I've seen fertility rituals performed. I have seen fertility medications being prepared. Yes, is the answer.
Okay. Are they effective?
Yes.
And this is an E5?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're very effective. I have not seen this with my own eyes, but I've heard many stories of women in their 50s being helped to conceive. Women who may have married later in life or been widowed or whatever the case may be, they want to have a baby at 50, and it was easy for them to do so.
I just learned something new. I'm familiar with people doing fertility rituals. It's something that's often done and performed in IET. I know my godfather, he's an herbalist, and that's what he's known for helping women to do. You were also saying that your some of the people in your Elay are midwives.
Yes, so my Baba is a midwife, and my Aluo, who initiated me, is also a midwife. It's kind of their family, and they're related. And so they it's their family business.
Okay. And so have you ever heard about magical rituals that can render a target infertile or cause them to have a miscarriage?
Well, I'll say that, particularly Ifa is a binary system. So you can think about the poles. If there's a north, there's a south. If there's a left, there's a right. So absolutely, if you can help someone become fertile and have a child, then you can also prevent them from doing so. So I think that's a given. I've never personally participated in any ritual or work aimed at preventing someone from having a baby or ending a pregnancy. But I'm certain beyond a shadow of a doubt that it can happen, absolutely.
Do you have any knowledge or do you know through secondhand information about anything?
Not really, not worth discussing. I mean, you hear stories of juju of all kinds, but no, not really. I know it's possible. If you ever watch any African movies, particularly those from Nigeria, like Nollywood, it's a big theme. There's always somebody who's, been struck barren by, a jealous relative or, that's a common theme. So, I think it happens. I think people like to discuss that type of work, but I have not done it. I would not do it.
I haven't done it.
Mm-hmm.
My client made a sour jar,
Mm-hmm.
because she was in a relationship with a gentleman,
Mm-hmm.
and this gentleman stepped out on her,
Mm-hmm.
and the woman that he stepped out with left some of her blood in his spaghetti. I mean, left some of her blood. Yeah, she put some of her blood in some spaghetti she made for him.
How do we know this? How does she know that the woman put the blood in the spaghetti?
Because I told her.
Okay, all right, okay. Go ahead.
And so the client was like, "What? She really did this?" And she was like, all of a sudden, this guy. Because she was saying that the guy, her ex-boyfriend was. She's like, let's just call this client Jane. Jane is like, all of a sudden my ex-boyfriend, he told me one day he wanted to work everything out, but then the next day he says he wants to get with this girl. I don't know what happened. And so I'm like, oh, she she worked him. She fixed him. And the client was like, well, what do I do to get him back? And I'm like, well, pay me for some spiritual work, and we're going to work to get him back. But in the meantime, I want you to make a sour jar. And so I did a reading for the client a couple of days ago, and I saw that the client's sour jar caused for the woman to have a miscarriage by her baby daddy, by Jane's baby daddy. And in addition to that, Jane's baby's father has stepped out on the other woman. The client texted me last night with a screenshot to show me the woman had also been arrested on Friday as well. So a sour jar can, and it does have the power, if you have the will to power the sour jar, you can cause for someone to have an abortion. Some of the other things that you can do, and this is really dangerous. I mean, just to let you know. I mean, it's not really dangerous at all, but if you are suspicious that your partner may be stepping out on you, leave scissors underneath their bed. Leave scissors underneath their bed, and enchant those scissors. Speak to those scissors and say that, any person that they sleep with, they will be cut off, and any child that's produced from that particular situation will not make it into this lifetime. Burn a candle, a black candle, and pray over it consistently, and just wait for it to happen. If you want to enhance the power of that particular ritual, then definitely get a sour jar. And I know from experience that it can do this. It's not guaranteed to work, but it can happen. There are some other instructions that I'm leaving out as well, but get creative. Okay, the next question is, all right, some people are wondering if they can, when we're thinking about being barren, or infertility being a genetic problem within people's families. Absolutely. Like men having low sperm counts, women not being able to carry to full term. Can those situations be fixed through spiritual work?
I think all things can be fixed through spiritual work, theoretically. But again, I use the metaphor of calling the hospital and asking how to fix this rash. They're not going to be able to tell you, and I can't tell you if spiritual work will fix your particular situation. It's something that is very involved. You need to have a reading, several readings probably. For something like that, I would recommend a client for us to open the Odu, which means they go and sit with a Babalawo and actually speak to, or have Ifa speak to them through either the Apwele or pounding the Ikin if they have the hand of Ifa. It's very serious because a lot of different things need to be looked at.
Can you explain the difference between sitting down with a reading for you about fertility and then sitting down with your Baba for an Odu reading for fertility?
If you read with me, my readings are informed by the ancestors. They are informed by the Orisha that walk with me. And also, of course, my own intuition. If you sit down with a babalawo and open the oracle, you sit down on the mat and they throw the apuele or pound the ikin, which are just two different methods for divining through Ifa. You can even use cowries. Then you are actually then in the Akashic records for all intents and purposes. You are actually looking at that individual's destiny as it was written and as it is being written and played out in real time. You are speaking to the oracle, which is Ifa, the mouthpiece of God. Okay. And so it's just a much more intense reading. Absolutely, absolutely accurate. And so that's the difference. Mm-hmm. And depending on what a client is going through, I may recommend that. But it may not be necessary. It just depends. Like, it just depends on the individual. But I definitely think I'm a believer in Ifa. Ifa is great. So I believe that spiritual work can help and address any issue that we're having. So yes, absolutely. Infertility can be addressed through spiritual work.
Okay. Well, yes, infertility can be addressed through any type of spiritual work. Reach out to us if you're having issues with infertility, sexual intercourse, pleasure, enjoyment, any of those things in your personal life. But I'm out of questions. You want to take some from the audience?
Yes, let's take some from the audience.
All right, so audience, go ahead and give us your questions. Hit the skull emoji. So that we know that you have a question for us in relation to sex magic, sex rituals, intercourse, infertility, being barren, cursing someone to make sure that they have a miscarriage, our experiences doing or not doing those things for clients.
I really am excited for people to begin to understand the gravity of the act of sex. And the spiritual ramifications of it. So I'm really excited to be doing this topic, and I hope that we will continue to build on it, because I do think it's one of the things that plague our community, honestly, especially with the over-sexualization of the Black woman. How many songs just make reference to the strip club? How many of us went to the strip club this weekend? How much money do we spend? And we're already operating at a cultural deficit, or financial deficit within our culture. And yet we spend so much money on entertainment, particularly that geared towards sex, and there is a reason why the Black woman in particular has been over-sexualized, and why the fertility and sexual prowess of the Black man has been demonized, and is population control. Part of it is population control. Part of it is envy, actually, which is interesting and pitiful. But it's really interesting how that plays out in our community.
I'm looking to see.
Can sex strengthen your higher self?
When you're robbing somebody of their energy. Well, no. When you've absorbed, received, taken energy that is healthy, energy that is from someone that has clarity in their lives, someone that is goal oriented, someone whom is balanced, has balance and good character. Absolutely, sex can strengthen you. Sex can also weaken you, and we spoke about how sex weakens you for men. That being said, what do you all want to know about abstaining from sex? Because that's just a vague ass question.
Really vague.
What about abstaining? I don't know. What about abstaining? And if you want info on abstinence, we are not the sexual health hotline. But
I don't advocate abstinence.
I advocate for celibacy. You want to be like Megan Good and Devon Franklin when you're trying to get that soulmate, but you're going to attract the soulmate that's celibate as well. It's the truth. I wanted to do a reading on Devon Franklin and Megan Good, but I want to be friends with him. I don't want to know they tea, just in case they may be a little bit deceptive. I think they're real though. Shout outs to Devon and Megan Good. I want to be our friend.
They were celibate before marriage, right?
He was celibate for 10 years, and she had been celibate for 9 months before she met him. And then they married 2 years after meeting each other.
I wonder what their sex life is like.
I wonder as well, too, because he's really gorgeous and she is. You can tell that they're very attracted to each other.
Anything. Oh, okay. You're saying they were very attracted to each other?
Uh-huh.
That's good.
Yes.
Being a man being celibate for 10 years who's not a monk or a priest.
He's he calls himself a motivational speaker, but he's a pastor. You know? But I'd be interested to know if he was really celibate for 10 years or, what his personality was like before, what it was like after completing his sex fast.
J25 has paid to ask this question. Can I pray or ask or do any type of spiritual work to attract a specific guy for a boyfriend?
I'll answer that. I'm going to do a reading for that particular person.
And also you need to call and book a reading. Of course, spiritual work can be done. As I said earlier, you can do spiritual work for anything. Everything. Spiritual work is the way to improve and impact your life, you guys. That's how you make real and measurable changes in your world. Prayer works also. But we have these Orisha who belong to us, who are part of our culture, who are here ready and waiting to work with us and for us, and the Loa as well. And so there's always something that can be done. I tell you guys that if you've had readings with me, you know that there's always recommendations to allow the Orisha to work for you, to help you.
Someone asked the question, can you curse yourself or your family by having an abortion? Have you ever heard about that?
Yes, you can. It's not about hearing about it. It's just about applying my knowledge to the situation. If you are pregnant with a child, and you were chosen for that child to come through, that's not random and it's not accidental. Even when we accidentally get pregnant, there are larger forces at work, okay? And you were chosen as a vessel because that is the particular family that person needed to come through in that particular time, in that particular political environment. All of that was considered before you were chosen as the portal for this person to come through. And chances are that the birth of that child would benefit your family in some way, your ancestors going back and your descendants going forward. And so if you make the unilateral decision, okay, if you've not checked with your ancestors to ask if it's permissible to do that, if you've not gotten spiritual counseling on it to see the ramifications of that, I think you absolutely can be fucking your bloodline up, because now this person who may have been the savior for your family is not coming through. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
That being, essentially you have to think about a team of powerful entities that are being tasked with controlling and governing the lifestyle of an entity that hasn't been here. And you are not allowing them the opportunity to live out the fullness of their purpose. So there are going to be consequences to you reneging on an offer that they've made to you. But I want to answer this person's question really quickly. There are two questions I want to answer. So someone, the person said, spiritual work to attract their boyfriend. So this Aj 25, let's see what I get. Okay, Ajay, the first card that I pulled for you is the Four of Wands. All right, so if you can see this here, Ajay. So the Four of Wands for you is speaking specifically about, at this time, you don't need to focus on trying to have a boyfriend. If anything, I think that you need to have a place of your own. They're talking about owning, like, a place of your own, no roommates. because they're saying that you need to have your own financial independence first. Because the type of relationship that you're supposed to have is one where you encounter someone that has a little bit of financial freedom. You both combine y'all's resources and live together, but that can't at your highest level at this time. You are supposed to be in a relationship with someone that you're living with. And I see you all sharing resources with one another. That being said, I don't think that this is the right time for you to try to manifest a particular guy in your life. I think that the guy may distract you from achieving financial independence. And I'll pull one more card for you. I have the Knight of Swords here. Okay. So this is talking about the next gentleman that you will attract. I feel like this gentleman is going to be, this gentleman is going to have feminine energy. This gentleman will portray themselves as masculine. They'll portray themselves as masculine, but it's a mask. They are going to, if you petition for them at this time, they will come soon. I'd say within 4 weeks, perhaps. But you need to get a private reading, because that's all the information that I can get for you.
Client Casey.
Okay, with that being said, so Courtney G, I'm going to answer all these. Courtney G, what role can mirrors play in sex magic? This is something that you all need to be very careful of. If you've been following any of R. Kelly's stories, some of the women will describe them. They'll say that he brought me in this room where there were mirrors all around the walls and there were mirrors on the ceilings and we had sex with each other. Mirrors are portals. Those are sex magic rituals that R. Kelly had those women participating in. If you have sex in front of a mirror, it is a portal. Someone can
see what you're doing.
Steal your ashe. They can trap your energy. They can trap your energy in that mirror. The mirror is almost a film recorder.
People who aren't in the room are able to see what's going on in the room. It's a portal. It's a window. It's
a camera. Mm-hmm. It's a video camera. That person, because you all were in that mirror, they can replay the events that happened through the mirror, and you'll know that they're replaying. If you've ever had sex with somebody, and all of a sudden you're just getting horny, all of a sudden, just out of nowhere, you just start remembering what it was like. Think about if you had sex in the room with a mirror, because that person may be using that mirror in some fashion to activate memories of that encounter for you again. Okay.
I want to answer the next question, which is Tanisha. Tanisha asks, does celibacy allow us to strengthen our personal energy with prayer and meditation? Not necessarily, Tanisha. Sex is not something that takes away, unless you're giving your energy away, or unless you're having sex with an unworthy person. You're not necessarily going to be stronger because you're not having sex. Your strength comes from working on yourself. Okay, it comes from increasing your ashe. It comes from improving and increasing your intuition. It comes from strengthening the relationships that you have with your ancestors and understanding and working with the Orisha and the Loa that walk with you. And so having sex is not going to take away from you if you're not actually doing those things. But having sex with the right partner can absolutely improve your life and strengthen you and add to what you have going on by virtue of them being stronger and so on. So I don't think that abstinence alone is a silver bullet. There's a lot of work that must go along with it. And more so than give up. That's why I said, people, I'm not really a big fan of abstinence, because people think that all they have to do is stop fucking. That's not going to help you. You need to stop fucking and start working, or you need to start fucking the right people. Or better people.
When you abstain from sex, you deny yourself the opportunity to
manifest through sex magic.
You deny yourself the opportunity to manifest anything that requires collaboration with other people. Or you also deny yourself the opportunity to grow through certain lessons that you're supposed to have with other people, such as, sometimes you just need to learn how to live with somebody. You just need to learn what it's like to break up with somebody immediately after having sex with them. There are so many, because you may have to minister to people, younger souls that are going through the things that you have met, the things that you've gone through. I wanted to say to client Casey, asking about somebody being in a long-term relationship with you.
Get a reading. Come on now, you guys know.
You need a reading. That person, no, they're not interested in a long-term relationship with you. They're either married. I'll tell you this for sure. There's another woman. They may be married. Get a reading. Abstain from sex.
Abstain from asking questions in the chat that you need a reading for. I'm annoyed. I'm over it. I'm tired of them doing that. Like, we're going to sit here and do a tarot reading for you in the middle of our show to answer your questions. Book a reading.
Well, I mean, at least they got their answer, I mean, anyway, with that being said, if you're wondering if somebody has true intentions for you, if you should abstain from having sex with them or not, you need to go to www.blackspectrumnetwork.com and book a reading with me, Negzo, or Osun Funke, or
the lovely Peach Blossom.
Exactly. That being said, we're going to go ahead and end this particular show.
We'll end this segment, yep.
Okay. We'll see you all next week for the never... let me get my words correct. In the words of the rapper Dreezy, gave mercy to these hoes. What would Jesus do? I'm your host for today, Negzo. This has been my co-host, Osun Funke. And we will see you all next week with another episode of Sophisticated Sunday. Bye.
So fuel my fire, take me higher, I'll be your liar too. Cause when we're here, there's nothing better than the sky.